Om Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karava Vahai Tejasvina Aditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the divine being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the divine being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. So, would you go remind Brahmadas that we're starting the class?
He's on his laptop.
Oh, I see. Oh,
I
is it?
know Cindy and I were going to come in here.
Oh, okay. Well, as pleases yourselves.
Yeah, he's going to be in.
Okay, very good. We've got people here for Save Us Saturday. So I was just talking to Bart Smith, and Brahmadas is also here, and Sanjeev was here, and Cindy's here. Get yourself a comfy chair.
I will. Actually.
All right. We're studying Swami Prabhavananda's collection of talks called Realizing God. We're well along in his talk on mind and its control. Many, many wonderful things have been shown to us as we discussed this. And we'll start here this morning. Does the world really exist? Do we see the same thing that everybody else sees? If you consider a baby's world and a young man's world and an old man's world, you see that the same object can be seen in different ways. A beautiful girl gives pleasure to her husband, but she brings jealousy to the minds of other girls. When you ask, what is the way? Shankara said that we have to do 4 things: to discriminate between the eternal and non-eternal, to give up desire for pleasures in the world and in heaven, to acquire qualities such as calmness, self-control, forbearance, and to have complete faith in the words of the Guru, surrendering to God. When I was studying the ideal of Shankara with a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, that was Swami Turiyananda, I said, and this is a quote from the Swami, from Swami, who was at the time still Abani, but when you have these, all of these qualifications that were mentioned by Adi Shankaracharya, I said, but when you have these, what need is there for anything more? You have attained everything. The Swami said, that's right. And these will continue. And these will come to you. These will come to you as you follow the teachings of your Guru. The first thing he said with a wink to Abani was, I see you have solved the puzzle. But the Swami chose not to quote that part. I didn't want to seem to brag, I guess. So then the Swami said, Abani said, when you have attained these, what need is there for anything more? You have attained everything. Turiyananda said, that's right. And these will come to you as you follow the teachings of your Guru. So what is it we're being told? we don't have to have all of these qualifications before we begin our journey to the center of our being. We just have to have the understanding that the teachings of our guru, the teachings of the guru, which is, of course, only the divine one in many faces, but the divine one appears to us as the teacher in all of these different forms. Only one guru. So the truth comes to us through these various seemingly individual people. So it's not as if we have to have all of these qualifications to start. No, we just have to have the determination that I want to achieve liberation. I want real freedom. I want real happiness. I want real independence from the things of the world. Then we begin to attain these things as we follow the teachings of our guru. So are there any comments or questions at this point? Because we're going to go into now a little description of the Bhagavad Gita and what Sri Krishna tells us, which has a bit of a different context. Anything at all that you'd like to say or add or ask about what's been said so far? All right. The Bhagavad Gita, the song of Sri Krishna, the song of God, Bhagavan, the Bhagavad Gita is set on the field of battle, and the fight is with the senses, sense pleasures. The treasure is hidden within, but you have to give up everything to find that treasure. Now, what does it mean to give up everything? Does it mean you simply sit in one place and do nothing but practice meditation? No, not at all. It simply means that you give up attachment to those things. You give up, you're going to go on living, you're going to go on doing your duties, as Sri Krishna says in the Gita. You're going to continue to eat and interact with other people, but there are lesser ways to do this and higher ways to do this. And as you practice offering everything to the divine and practicing self-surrender, then in effect, you have given up everything to where it belongs, to the author, to that the creator, sustainer, and transformer of the universe. So that's what he means by give up everything. Doesn't mean that you stop doing everything. I will tell you a story. A scholar went to a holy man because he had all the scholarship, but had found no peace. He had attained all of the scholarly virtues and knowledge, but found no peace. The holy man said, "Renounce." So the man thought he would renounce the world and live on alms. After some time, he came back and said, "I find no peace." The holy man said, "Renounce." The man had only a cloth and his blanket and a water pot, but he gave them away. He came back and said, "I still find no peace. Renounce." Then he thought to himself, "This body." So he built a bonfire and was about to sacrifice himself. The holy man came and dragged him by the hair and said, "Whose body is this? This does not belong to you. It belongs to your parents. What have you got to renounce? Your ego." You see, renunciation does not mean giving up your possessions. Have possessions, but be not possessed by them. You see, renunciation does not mean giving up your possessions. Have possessions, but be not possessed by them. In the Chandogya Upanishad, we read, when the food is purified, the heart is purified. When the heart is purified, there arises constant recollectedness of God. When that arises, the knowledge of Brahman comes. So I'm going to read that sequence again. You see, renunciation does not mean giving up your possessions. Have possessions, but be not possessed by them. In the Chandogya Upanishad, we read, when the food is purified. What does it mean, purified? It means offered with great sincerity as it's cooked, as it's finished and ready to be served. You offer it to the divine presence. That purifies the food. When the food is purified, the heart is purified. When the heart is purified, then there arises constant recollectedness of God. And that happens spontaneously. When the heart is purified, you see clearly what is reflected there. What is reflected there is the divine presence. We are all a reflection or a shadow of the divine presence. So when the heart is purified, there arises constant recollectedness of God. Well, it's because you are seeing that clearly. When that arises, the knowledge of Brahman comes. Now, the knowledge of Brahman is not something that can be described in any way.
Just experienced.
But the constant recollectedness of God comes as a peak experience as what's called savikalpa samadhi. Still within time, space, and causation, you have the experience. There's still an experiencer, the experienced, and the experience. But that experience is only of the divine presence. Everything that is a manifestation of the divine presence is pushed to the side, pushed to the periphery. It's off your radar screen, as it were. You're experiencing only the divine presence. So this is this recollectedness at its peak. And that experience is transformative. Then something else happens to you, according to Patanjali, and your meditation deepens and becomes a different kind of samadhi, ultimately a samadhi in which there is no experiencer. The mind is left behind or dissolved or annihilated, or all of those words are essentially meaningless because what happens is you are one with that knowledge that is Brahman. But those are just words. None of us can know what is meant by those words until we have that realization. But first we have to have this constant recollectedness of God that comes with savikalpa samadhi, this experience within time, space, and causation. Then the idea, the thought of God never leaves us because it was so powerfully, it was the only thing that we were experiencing. in Savikalpa Samadhi. So are there any questions or comments about what's been said about this, what it really and truly means to renounce and to have this experience that leads to constant recollectedness of God?
No, I'm okay.
Anyone at all have anything?
Hari Om, Shankaraji.
Yes, Bala, I've been hoping to hear from you.
Yeah, because for me, this constant recollectedness is what, Swami says, constant practice of mantra japa.
Yes.
This is what I, think that is a constant recollectedness. It's automatically, after enough practice, it automatically comes to your mind. Of course, I didn't reach to that state, but I'm still trying to practice it.
Well, that's what happens. And when that happens, at some moment, then you, as was said last night, or no, not last night, Tuesday night, by Holy Mother, keep practicing your japa, because you never know when that supreme moment comes that you have this experience that is the divine presence only and nothing else. And so, yes, Balakrishna, you're right. The Guru just tells you to keep practicing your japa, because that will ultimately, that is a way of purifying the heart. Mother is very clear about that. The whole, not just the heart, but the whole body becomes purified by the vibration of the mantra. Thank you, Bala. Anything else from anyone?
I haven't. Can I pipe up?
Yeah, Sharda's with us, sitting on the floor here in the shrine.
Yes. Okay, I'll be saying. Thank you. Thank you. This is, whoops, where am I? Okay. This was mentioned in the reading. It may be a little off topic, but talking about offering food, and the food is purified. And this is something that comes up for me and has for years. And I don't think I've ever mentioned it, but having especially been raised as a Christian, I can't help but think a lot of the time, who am I to offer this food to the creator of the food? I mean, it's already, who am I to offer it when it's not mine to offer? It belongs, everything belongs to the divine already. So, Christians basically thank God for the meal.
Mm-hmm.
As a human being, thank you so that to sustain me, this embodied being. So anyway, that's my question or comment.
Well, it's not that there's anything intrinsically necessary about offering the food. Although Sri Krishna says in the Gita that the devas have provided it to you. The devas are the ones who operate the gunas. And so they have given it to you. So you offer it back to them before you take it. You allow them to take it before you take it. Then you are not. Lori, I'm in class. Can I call you back? Thank you. If that hadn't been Lori, I wouldn't have answered it. Sorry, folks. So the idea of offering food, it's not like there's anything that you're doing something that the Lord needs the food or wants the food. The Lord has no needs or wants. It's for us that it's done, not for the Lord. And as Hafiz points out, and I will read this Sunday, the full poem in which he says this, each soul completes me. We are part of that. We are part of that right now, this minute. And so whatever we do as part of that completion. And all of this business about offering food or offering the rest of it, it's just so that we are constantly in that frame of reference of the divine. It's not about being good or doing good things. And thankfulness, of course, as the Christians practice, an attitude of gratitude is a very healthy and auspicious one. Thanks for that question, Char. Anything else from anybody?
Well, and Shankara, that actually fits with my theory that gratitude is the currency of the universe.
Ah, yes.
Almost like gratitude is the cover charge to get in, and it doesn't
Yes.
like so the offering of the food back to Brahma, who provided it in the first place, is the gesture of gratitude. That's the cover charge.
Yeah.
To get access to divinize that which is already divinized, but to make me present to the divinization process is what it feels like.
Yes.
Because my forgetter works full time, and it's the remembering is the challenge. And one of the things, in addition to currency being gratitude being the currency of the universe, is that I had an experience in February that now I'm looking, because it's obvious to me that it seems obvious that there's a graceful way to do everything. So when I find myself in difficulty, it's a safe bet that I'm the part that's being difficult. And so I look for where I'm being difficult and where the grace lies. And it's the same thing as looking for the gratitude or looking for the remembering. It's simply
Yes.
another access to bringing God into the moment, who's already here, but bringing my awareness of God in the moment. And
Perfect.
and that's the game of reeling me back in. And I give myself grace in that Maya is very, very attractive. It was Brahma that created Maya, and there's a part of me that's very, very attracted to Maya. And it's not near as big as the part that's attracted to the divine and being in the presence of the divine and the oneness.
Yes.
So it's overcoming the gravitational pull and the attractiveness of Maya
Yes.
through gratitude and grace.
Mahamaya is the great Maya is meant to distract us.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to just remember, I just read this in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna the other day. It was us who did this, us as the divine being who created this distraction so that we would be distracted, so that we would be able to play the game of manyness. And you can characterize it as something other than a game if you like, but that's how Sri Ramakrishna talks about it. It is our sport as mother, her game of blind man's bluff. We're all wearing a blindfold, and until we touch the granny, until we have the realization of who we truly are, then the blindfold remains on. But this attitude of gratitude, it is, Amadas characterized it as the currency. Well, you can definitely think of it that way, but it's just the way, if we want to truly enjoy this life, then if we're grateful for it and for everything that's in it, as Mother said, even suffering is a blessing if we understand. And certainly the saints tell us this is true.
It's true.
because everything that happened to us, every instant that happened to us from eons ago, brought us to this moment, sitting here this Saturday morning, holding our minds to this knowledge and the enjoyment that that produces of us doing this together and seeing that there is this opening that Amadas just spoke about. Because as he so, uh, it was so sweetly and but so truly said, the forgetter works full time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're just constantly pulled away. So this is
Right.
why we need to work toward that experience of Savikalpa Samadhi. And we don't know when it will happen to each of us. We don't know, but we do know that if we do our spiritual practices, it will happen. It's not a question of whether, it's when. Each soul is potentially divine, as Swami Vivekananda said. Potentially doesn't mean maybe or maybe not. It means that that divinity is within each soul and is only to be connected to, like connecting the poles of a battery. And then suddenly we know there's energy in the battery. Thank you, Amadas. Anything else from anyone? This is exactly the kind of discussion we need to have.
Hari Om, Shankaraji.
Yes, Bala.
This brought me back to Vivekananda's saying that whatever you do in the society, in whatever way you help or anything like that, you have to thank them because they are giving that opportunity to you because you are serving Brahman.
Yes, that's
So
exactly
that is
what
the
we'll
offering.
talk about. That's exactly what we'll talk about tomorrow. This is Sri Ramakrishna's Karma Yoga. Thank you, Bala. Exactly. Anything else from anyone? Okay. Going on with what the Swami said, but what is this food that is to be purified? Not merely what we eat. We are taking food through all our senses. And that's what Sri Ramakrishna meant when he said that in the Kali Yuga, the difficulty is that we are so dependent on food. And he means what comes through all our senses. And if we stop and think about it, if we just pause and reflect, we'll see that we're constantly assaulted on all sides through our senses. Sound, activity, just smells, you know. You daren't go to the mall. I mean, if you do, you're going to be deliberately assaulted. Every sense will be assaulted. Sound, smell, taste, everything trying to get you to buy. So we are, but the beauty of it is that though we are so dependent on the senses, and this darkness is very black, it's very thin. And so Sri Ramakrishna says, practice just a little, and someone, that someone being the Divine Mother herself, will come forward to help you. So it isn't just taking food, it's taking food through all our senses. Shall we just stop our noses and close our eyes? Isn't that a profound question? Shall we just stop our noses and close our eyes? No. Move amongst the objects of the senses, but without attachment or aversion. In other words, if you must go to the mall, don't be upset with the fact that the merchants are doing what they're doing. No aversion to what they're doing. Just recognize it for what it is and go for what you went for and allow yourself to become attached to nothing else. Shall we stop our noses and close our eyes? No. Move amongst the objects of the senses, but without attachment or aversion. Christ said it so simply, so simply. His shortest teachings, one of the Logians of the Gospel of Thomas, be passers-by. Just don't, there it is. It's attractive, no doubt. It's even compelling, no doubt. But just keep moving without attachment and without being resentful or averse to the fact that the world has presented you with that. Because both of those are just, again, another kind of distraction. Aversion is just another kind of distraction. Likes and dislikes are equal in their ability to distract us from the truth. Of course, it takes time, but practice, practice, practice. Then your heart will be purified. When your heart becomes purified, you have reached the goal. Of course, it takes time, but practice, practice, practice. This means every day, at least in the morning and evening if you can. Practice, practice, practice. Then your heart will be purified. When your heart becomes purified, you have reached the goal. The nature of the mind is to be always in flux. How then can it be controlled? Take, for instance, an electric light bulb in which the current is flowing steadily. In the same way, the current of the mind goes to the Atman within and flows continuously. That becomes meditation. In the same way, if the current of the mind goes to the Atman within and flows continuously, that becomes meditation. And that's the result of practice, and only practice. Because what happens is, one way of talking about it is, we sink below the level of the mind in flux. And this, whatever it is that we're practicing, visualization, japam, mindfulness of the breath, whatever it is, that becomes continuous. And when it does, that becomes meditation. As you concentrate your mind, you find it fluctuating, thinking of all kinds of things and objects. Bring it back again and again. What does it mean, bring it back? When you notice that your mind has become part of it, that a thought has become a train of thought, and you moved away from what it was that you were doing, whatever your object of concentration was, you simply bring it back to your object of concentration. You don't get upset with yourself. You don't get upset with your mind. Nothing is wrong. It's just that the inevitable has happened. The mind is constantly being affected by the gunas. The mental impressions that are the contents of your mind are constantly being energized by the gunas. This is what I mean by you sink below that. You sink deeper and deeper until you finally sink into the silence that becomes savikalpa samadhi. When you find your mind fluctuating, thinking of all kinds of things and objects, bring it back again and again. Struggle. Don't give in. Then you will succeed. It is said that if you can concentrate for a few minutes, it is meditation. The actual definition is 2 minutes, 24 seconds. 12 times 12 seconds. 2 minutes, 24 seconds. That's Patanjali's definition. If you can concentrate for a few minutes, it is meditation. If you meditate for a few minutes, you attain samadhi. Think of that. If you meditate for a few minutes, you attain samadhi. This is the Savikalpa Samadhi. In 25 minutes or half an hour, you can attain samadhi. Now that is the higher forms of samadhi. And it can happen. It can happen for you. Just keep practicing. 25 minutes seems like an impossibly long time in the beginning, but it is not. There is an illustration of the stump of a tree in the dark. A little child of those who are afraid of spooks. There's a stump of a tree. A little child, or those who are afraid of spooks, see a ghost. A lover expecting his beloved sees his beloved. Do we see this business of our mind projecting what we expect or want? The same thing appears differently according to the moods of a person's mind. We create our own images. When something goes wrong, we tend to blame externals, but we have created those externals, the environment that we are in. If we want to change the environment, we have to change ourselves. If we reform ourselves, the whole world becomes reformed. When divine vision opens up, this very universe becomes a mart of joy. Now, I'm going to read that again, and then I hope that you will speak to your reactions about this. There is an illustration of the stump of a tree in the dark. A little child, or those who are afraid of spooks, see a ghost. A lover expecting his beloved sees his beloved. The same thing appears differently according to the moods of a person's mind. We create our own images. When something goes wrong, we tend to blame externals, but we have created those externals, the environment that we are in. If we want to change the environment, we have to change ourselves. If we reform ourselves, the whole world becomes transformed. When divine vision opens up, this very universe becomes a mart of joy. Anything at all to add from your own experience or to ask from some doubt or concern that you have?
Very true, Brother Shankara. Definitely, I experienced this. If we change, even we have negative personalities around us, even if they don't change, those don't affect us anymore. That's the secret of that, our change. When we change, we are able to observe anything. It doesn't affect us personally. It doesn't go into our heart anymore. It just reflects backwards, whatever they say or do. But sometimes people do change because we change. It's like Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change to see the change.
And when we change,
Yes.
this radiance has a
Exactly.
very beneficent effect.
It's
a
like a
very
sunlight.
beneficial effect on the
Yes,
people that we interact with. We don't
definitely.
have to say anything about it.
Exactly.
We just have to be that.
I
And
have
then
experienced
our environment changes.
automatically changes. Exactly. Thank you. I truly experienced it.
Thank you.
And,
Hannah. Thank you for
yes,
sharing.
sure, Brother Shankara.
Anyone else? Anything at all?
And the Swami says, but what is this food that is to be purified? Not merely what we eat. We are taking food through our senses. Shall we just stop our noses and close our eyes? No. Move amongst the objects of the senses, but without attachment or aversion. I feel like that's become more difficult in our age than in his when he wrote this, because now we've got our cell phones constantly talking to us, and like traffic is getting noisier. People are honking and yelling at me, and I'm hearing noise, music from the other car, whatever he's listening to. It just seems like in our age, that's become a bit more difficult than it was, say, 50 or 100 years ago.
Well, there's no doubt that the world has become even more intense in its assault on us since the 30s or 40s or 50s, when the Swami first spoke these words. These talks were first, some version of them was first given, the first transcripts that Nalini worked with were from 1938 all the way up to 1976. And the Swami would give the same talk over and over at various times over those years. But it wasn't exactly the same talk. If we look at the book, we see that she identifies the particular iteration of the talk from which she's taken the words that are on the page. But you're right, Brahmadas. The world has become more assaultive, more difficult. I mean, there is now, at this terrible end of the Kali Yuga, terrible in the sense of just what we've been discussing and describing, Dharma is all but gone. It's still embodied by a few, and there are those who are struggling to embody it, particularly the spiritual aspirants. But it's difficult. So this is why it's so important. All we need to remember, if we just can just remember it from moment to moment, day to day, be passersby, be a passerby. Whatever it is that you encounter, don't become attached to it, and by all means, don't resent it or be averse to it. Just pass by. Because both the attachment, I spoke earlier about going to the mall. I mean, the mall is designed to be a complex web of enticements, sounds, smells, tastes. You know, the ice cream parlor will give you a free little sample. The cookie vendor has a little plate of samples out, this, that. Every shop window is beautifully designed to attract your attention and pull you inside. Go if you must, but be a passerby. We're only going to change ourselves. We're not going to change the world unless and until we change ourselves. And then, having changed yourself in a way, the mall becomes a little comical, rather than assaultive. It's just funny to see how hard the world, the gunas, will work. You talk about struggle. Great thought, great expense, great effort has been gone into to attract your attention. It becomes a little comical.
I have a thought for Brahmadas, Brother Shankara.
Yes.
When once you start meditating, as your ego gets healthier, you drop that unhealthy ego, then you won't get affected by road rages. You won't get affected by negative comments. It doesn't attack you anymore. You kind of feel like, oh, it's about them, not about me. Then you move on, be passersby, like Christ said. We will be passersby. We will easily pass all these obstacles in our life. Very easily, we just keep moving forward. That's what my experience is, just to what Brahmadas commented. And it's just the meditation does miracles, really. Few minutes, like you said.
Thank you, Jaime. But it has to be done regularly.
Regularly, yes, regularly.
We're not going to become a master at anything unless we
Not at all.
regularly.
Yes, I'm still on the path, but not a master. Still, I'm experiencing that change in me, change in the, what the universe always has been like this. There were always Hitlers, there were always Mussolinis, there were always Mother Teresa's, but we won't get affected by those Hitlers, but we will only look at Mother Teresa's. That's what I meant. That's what I meant.
And evil didn't die in the world with the death of
Exactly.
Hitler. Osama bin Laden came and all kinds of.
Exactly. They come and go, but we will continue to move forward without taking inside our skin. We let it reflect backwards, those negative ones, and you only follow the positive ones, like Mother Teresa or Mahatma Gandhi.
Thank you, Jaime.
Sure, Brother Shankara. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Shankara?
Yes, dear Neera.
Yes. How many more years are left of the Kali Yuga? I mean, we all will be gone by the time it's over.
Well, Neera, we only have a little hints. When Vivekananda was very near the end of his life, he said, either in a letter or to one of his brother monks or to Nivedita, I don't remember to whom he said it, but these are his exact words. I have given them enough for 1,500 years. So this is some hint that from the time that he was in the world, there was that period of time left until what he left us with would no longer be the needful. I don't know the answer to the question, but really let's not concern ourselves with that so much. Let's just concern ourselves about what we find ourselves with in this very moment.
So
what
my
is the
second,
condition of our mind? What is the condition of our heart? And then
second point
what
was,
can I do about it?
like we're talking about changing the world or changing ourselves, and then the world will be reformed on its own. But, and also going to the mall, like we all can be window shoppers. And it's a matter of being focused and making the right choices every step of your life, it makes a big difference.
Well, this is the thing, Nero. We don't have to make the right choice every step of our life. It's not possible for a start. We mustn't be that impatient and hard on ourselves. Be your own best friend. When you find your best friend in distress, what do you say? When you find yourself troubled or found yourself having fallen short, say what you would say to yourself as if you were speaking to your best friend. You would console them. You would comfort them. You would sustain them. Sustain, comfort, console yourself. The world is a very difficult place. And it takes years and years of practice. You know, if you're in the world of chess, they have a rating system. They have so you're assigned a number. And if you get above 1800, well, you're very good indeed. If you become above 1900, you're in the master class, and so on and so forth. Well, no one assigns us these numbers in spiritual life. We're given instructions by the Guru, whether it be through personal instruction or through the Gita or through the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, whatever the source is. We're given lots of instruction. We do the best we can with it. And what is the measure of spiritual progress? Change in behavior. This is what Swami Swahananda said over and over. The only true measure of spiritual progress is change in behavior. So if I'm no longer getting as impatient or as angry as often as I used to, then I can see I've made progress. If I'm being more loving toward myself and toward others, more accepting, then I can tell my spiritual practice is yielding progress. And as Holy Mother said, was quoted this last Tuesday evening, we never know when the supreme moment will come, when we'll have that experience of samadhi. When finally the last knot of the heart is sufficiently unloosed that the heart rushes toward itself, toward the divine presence. So let us just be very patient and loving with ourselves. As I said, be your own best friend. Whatever you would say to your best friend if they were in distress or had made a mistake, say that to yourself.
Thank you.
Brother Shankara, a change that's shown up recently in my life came out of working with my mother. And I would watch her get frustrated, and that would make her want to quit whatever we were doing in the moment. And I taught her 4-part breathing as an alternative to frustration, because frustration leads to not clear thinking, and not clear thinking, confusion, and then confusion, quitting. And the 4-part breathing would slow her down long enough and oxygenate her to allow her to center and get past the frustration and move forward. And I recognized that I do that myself. She's obviously my teacher in that. And through working with her, I've been able to address my frustration far earlier as it arises in myself, and to breathe through it and let it go, because I'm very clear that it is a major veil between me and clear thinking. Frustration is like disconnecting my frontal lobes. I don't have access when I'm frustrated. And so the earlier I address it, the more advantage it is to me. And because I'm doing that with myself and with my mother, in my general experience, it's not like there is no frustration on anybody's part, but it's showing up less in my world as it's showing up less in me and less in my mother.
Ain't that amazing how that works?
It
Yes,
ripples
indeed.
out.
And thanks for sharing that. Yes, well, frustration, all of these aversions are just another way of distracting ourselves We're so habituated to it. We're so used to avoiding the truth, which is self-evident right in front of us. The truth of our being, the truth of the nature of reality. But we have all of these aspects. As Holy Mother said, we're endowed not only with goodness, but with profuse quantities, her words, profuse quantities of materialism and vanity. So materialism makes us frustrated when we don't have what we think we want. Vanity makes us frustrated when we're not being treated as we think we should be treated, or not achieving what I think I should achieve. So we just have to say, okay, this is the gunas at work. Materialism is tamas. Vanity and its products are rajas. The two of them work nicely together, of course, to produce all kinds of desires and distractions. Spiritual practice, particularly the practice of contemplation, concentration, and meditation, slowly and slowly reveal to us just exactly what we're doing, and even after a time, why. And so we are able to release those things. That's what renunciation means. It doesn't mean to push it away. It means to let it go. Okay. So it's 11:57. Is there anything else from anyone before we close?
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
I just wanted to share that this morning I happened to come across a talk by Swami Sarvapriyananda on the significance of incarnation and his glory, particularly Sri Ramakrishna.
Oh.
And there were a couple of points that really struck a chord with me. So just wanted to mention that in case anybody wants to check it out.
Okay. Swami Sarvapriyananda, and the title of the talk is?
Significance of incarnation and his glory.
Well, you can see the roots of this title in Sri Chaitanya's prayer. Chant the name of the Lord and his glory. By that it means the incarnate being, as well as that which is behind. Chant the name of the Lord and his glory, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quenched that mighty forest fire, worldly lust, raging furiously within. That's Sri Chaitanya's promise. Sri Chaitanya himself, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is of course himself regarded as an incarnation, not just of Krishna, but Krishna and Radha together. Quite a remarkable story, the story of Chaitanya. It is said that they incarnated together so that they could have the experience of being united and what that would produce in the world. And look what it produced if you study the life and work of Sri Chaitanya. What it produced. Every year or so, a talk is given on Chaitanya's prayer, the perfect primer. And so some things are said at that time. And you can find that if you're interested. You can find that talk online in the center's archives. Thank you, Swayam.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Anything else from anyone? All right, dears. Let there be peace in outer space. Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters. Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees. May the gods be peaceful. May the whole universe be pervaded by peace. Let this infinite universal peace prevail throughout my being. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Om Hari Om Tat Sat. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be cheerful. May you have peace of mind. Go forward in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. Any final thoughts from anyone? All right. The next time we have an opportunity to get together, of course, is tomorrow morning by Zoom. This will be the last time that we have only a Zoom meeting. July 4th, we will be together in the chapel, but it will also be Zoomed. So those of you who join us by Zoom, you don't have to come and be physically present among us. It'll be very like what you see here. We're going to get a computer like this one and put it in the chapel. And so the text will be up on the screen just as I do on Sunday mornings here. And you will be on the screen, those of you who are joining us by Zoom. So tomorrow morning, of course, it's still all Zoom. And the title is Sri Ramakrishna's Karma Yoga, which is a delightful stroll through Sri Ramakrishna's thinking about what it truly means to be human. All right.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. All right. Good to see your name there, Fred. Good to see you all. Holy company indeed. Until tomorrow morning. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma.